Hi everyone, today we're going to look at the C-More Micro HMI object buttons and indicators. Now the C-More Micro HMI Panel software uses virtual components called objects, and these objects are programmable to simulate the functions you require on your automation project. Several of these objects can be placed on one panel and you can have multiple panel screens. This helps you produce simple, intuitive looking human-machine interfaces. And last time what we did was we looked at the shape object and we drew some shapes and we used the visibility of switches within our PLC in order to turn them on and off. Today we're looking at buttons and indicators. So if we look over at our object list, here's our buttons right here. And the first thing we'll do is actually add 2 more pages to our project that we have going. So we're just going to add a new screen here, and we'll call this screen 3. This is screen 3. We'll call this one buttons. Hit OK. And then we'll also add another one, and we'll call this indicators. And that's on screen 4. Now we have our 2 screens, and the other thing we need to do is we need to add these to our background screen in our screen selector. So let's look at our screen selector, and we've called this up before, and our screens, and we're going to add our button and we'll add our indicator. Hit OK. So now we have that added. Now our buttons, we'll use the background and we will select 100. So now we have our buttons here for our background as we've done before. And same with screen 4. So the first thing we'll do is look at screen 3, and we will add a push button to this screen. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can go to Object, we can go down to Button and then hit Push Button, and then we can draw it on the screen. We'll just escape out of that. The other way is to actually double click on the push button. It'll drop that into or onto our screen, and then we come up with the push button window. We'll cancel that. We can also just take this and drag it onto the screen where we want as well. That's another way of doing it. And the last way is you'll see under the parts list we have several predetermined push buttons themselves that we can choose from that are already designed for us, so we can just use those as well. But in our case here, we're just going to double click on the push button, and then our push button screen comes up. And what we're going to do first of all is we're going to put a label on it, and you can see here that we can toggle the label top and bottom, and you see our simulation here will actually dictate or show us what it's going to look like on our screen before we put it on. We can also simulate it by turning it on and off. Make it look, so that looks pretty good. We can change the on text and the off text. We're going to leave those the same. We can also change the color of that. We can change alignment. So there's lots of little details that we can use this. We can look at the frame size, do basic, or we can leave as default, which is a theme. So there's several different options you can have here. We can put a description for the actual button that we're using on our screen. We can also use the round button or the square. So we'll leave everything as the default now. And for the object type, we can have a toggle. We can have a momentary on, momentary off, set on, and set off. So the toggle, if we were to hit this button, will turn on a bit in the PLC. And if we were to hit it again and it's on, it'll turn it off. And it's off, we hit it, it turns it on. So it alternates from on to off throughout. Our momentary on will actually, as we hold the button, it will turn on the bit that we have in our PLC. And the momentary off is the bit will always be on. When we hit and hold on the momentary, it'll turn it off. Then we have a set on. So the set on will actually, when you hit it, it sets that bit on, and somewhere else we'd have to set it off. And then we have a set off, so as soon as we hit that button, it will turn it off. and leave it off until something else turns it on. So for our case here, we're going to use toggle, and the tag name that we're going to use is going to be MC4. Now we can select MC4 from list. Now I already have these pre-programmed in. You can also go to our tag database as we've done before, and we can either add a new one, or we can edit this one. And our edit, you're just basically saying it's discrete. Our memory location is 0, channel or address 4, and that's on our Modbus that we're going to be using. So it's going to be the 4. So we'll set OK. It brings it back here, and we choose the toggle. So everything's good. We then hit OK, and then up on the screen we can now position our push button to where we would like it to appear on our screen. So there, looks pretty good. We can also use these handles, and we can make it bigger or smaller. So the next one we're going to do is the switch. In this case here, what we're going to do is take the switch from the parts, and we're just going to take sample 1. We're going to drag this over, right click, drag it over, and again our switch will appear. We can simulate it on and off. And in this case here, we're going to leave everything the same. We switch label. We can call that switch, turn on the label. So it looks like that. We'll leave it as momentary again. And again, you can see all of our different object styles that we can have in our on our switch itself. We can turn off the enhance up here, and you see the basic switches. We can turn on enhance and see all the ones that we have. And the one that we actually were choosing was actually the green one here, and that was on switch 1. So the next thing is our tag name, and for this one here, what we use is MC5. And again, all of these tag names for the buttons are discrete on and off. So we hit OK. And now we can position our switch on our screen, and that looks pretty good right there. The next one is our radio button, and the radio button, what we'll do is go into our parts list again. We'll go down to sample 5, and we'll just drag this onto the screen. Again, our radio button window appears. In this case here, we can actually have up to 16 different buttons. There's 2 buttons, so from 2 all the way up to 16 different buttons. So we're going to leave it as default 3. We can change the backlight, we can change the setting on each one of these buttons, and we can simulate that one on. So number 2 on, simulate number 3 on, and what you'll notice is that only one button or one bit at a time can be on. So that's the distinction of a radio button. Radio button, only one bit can be on at a time. And what we'll use is MHR7 as our word that's going to control up to our 16 bits that we have there. And again, our object style, we can change it to vertical, horizontal, make it round buttons. So a lot of different choices to make it the way you want it to appear on your screen. So once we're all done that, we'll just hit OK. And once again, we can size our radio button, and that looks good. Next, what we'll do is our indicator button. And our indicator button, what we'll do is place this on the screen. Actually, what we'll do is escape out of that, and we will grab green 3 out of our parts list here. There's green 3. We'll drag that up onto our screen. And here is my indicator button. Now our indicator button, basically all of the different parameters are the same, except for now we have a push button tag name as well as an indicator light tag name. So they are completely different. So we can control the light as well as the tag differently depending on what we want to do. So on our push button tag, what we'll do is we'll call that MC6. And then our indicator light tag, we will call that MI6. Again, a lot of these parameters of what we already set before. So we'll hit OK, and now we can size our indicator lamp, and we'll put it right about there. Now the last one of our button is our TriState Switch. In our TriState Switch, we actually have 3 buttons typically for the tri, and we'll take one of the samples here from our parts list. We'll take sample 1 and we'll place it right on our screen, and our TriState Switch window appears now. So again, we have our simulation. Turn that on and off. Button 2, turn it on, and you'll notice button 1 then goes off. So then we have object text. We can have text for each one, and we can change background colors, etc., just as we did before, and we can also put a label on if we wish. Now we can also have function key assignments as well to this TriState button. Now you'll see button number 1 is for all reset. So this actually uses 2 input bits, and those 2 input bits will determine the state of each one. So button number 2, we will use MC7, and button number 3, we'll use MC8. So if both MC7 and MC8 are off, that means that button 1 will be on. So that's how the TriState Switch will work, and we'll hit OK. And we can now position it. That looks pretty good. So that is our button screen. Now let's go to our indicator screen, and under indicators we have 3 different indicators we can put up on our screen. And the first one is our indicator light. And our indicator light, we'll look at our parts list here, and we'll just call this sample number 2 up here. And now we have an indicator light information. And you'll see here that we have indicator light here for our label. We can change the color, shape, size. We can simulate that on and off. So that looks pretty good. Change our text. Instead of on, off, we could have 1, 0, engaged, not engaged, whatever will describe the function of this indicator better to you. And then our tag, what we'll do is look at our drop down tag and our indicator, and what we'll do is we'll put in MI2, and if we were to hit the tag database, you can actually see that we have everything again already pre-programmed, and it's discrete. So what we're actually doing is, because it's an indicator, we are actually just reading only what's in the PLC or that address. So we'll hit OK, and now we can position this light indicator lamp on our screen, and that looks pretty good. Next we have a graphic indicator light, and on that one what we'll do is we'll look through our parts list, and we'll take sample 9, put that up on our screen. Again, our graphic indicator light window will open up, and it gives us an opportunity now to change all the parameters. We can put labels on there if we want, different frame sizes. We'll use it as none. And what you'll notice is that we have several different varieties of lights that we can have, or indication lights for our graphic. And our tag name, we're going to use MC or MI3 for this one. And MI3 was also the one that we used last time in our objects to change the visibility. Now, on all these options, you also see this option here, which actually has the visibility flag. We want everything showing, so we're going to not enable that at all. So once we have that set, we'll hit OK. Again, we'll just resize this indicator light to the size we want. We'll position it. And then we'll move to our numeric display. And our numeric display, what we'll do is, again, look at parts list. We'll look at, let's see, a sample here. This one looks good. Sample 3. And again, our numeric display now will change and look at a number within the controller of the PLC. So here we will set the name, our theme again. We set a label if we wish. Now we won't in this case here. And then we'll set the font colors, etc. We'll display format. We're going to use unsigned decimal. I guess we'll use, let's use 4 with a 1 fraction. So you see the decimal place come here. We can also set a prefix. What that is something before to describe the condition that we have. So let's put in our Modbus register that we're going to be using, MHR8. And we'll leave a space. And our suffix, which is N, which is going to be our units that we are going to be displaying. So this could be feet, meters, speed, pressure, anything that you want that number to represent. And then, as we said, our tag will be MHR8. So there we go. We could also have a separate tag for decimal point if we want to. So if we have variance in there, we can actually change that. And our font and color, let's just change our font so it's going to be a little bit bigger on our screen. We'll look at our Windows font, and let's change that up to 24. We'll set OK. We'll hit OK on there. And now, here we have to now reposition our unit. So we can resize it and place this anywhere we'd like on the screen. So right there looks pretty good. So that's it for our 2 pages, or 2 new pages that we have. And the next thing we'll do is transfer this to our PLC. So first of all, yes, we'll save those. And now what we'll do is we will transfer this, and what I have is my currently I have my micro HMI connected through Ethernet, as you can see here, and there's my port assignment, and we're going to hit transfer. So it's loading. Project's now complete. Now using Ethernet to control or transfer your project is quite quick. So there we go. Our project is now transferred. And if we look and see our screen, we will go to our screen selector, and here we have our screen selector. We can now go down and select our buttons, hit enter, and there are buttons that we have just programmed. So the next thing we'll do is we'll just go that down, and what we're connected currently to a PLC Simulator, which is the Do More Designer, and with this built-in simulator. We can stop the unit, we can also run, and we've shown this before in the past. So this is where we're going to indicate where our lights are. And our program that we programmed in here, we have our push button, MC4, MC5 that we've programmed for our push button or switch, and they go to our local lamp or our output Y1 and Y2. So again, if we look at the simulator, we'll now turn on the push button. Now remember, it was toggle, so it's going to be on, which it comes on, and then off, which is off. So you can see Y1 then turns on. Our switch is currently off. Turn that on. You can see a nice graphic of our switch then turning on, and the Y2 will come on. Turn that off. Now the next one is our radio. Now our radio, if we look at the buttons, we only had 2 to set, and that was we set it on MHR7, and our MHR7 is actually the 16 bits, and what we're looking at is the first bit of that word, and then the second word of that word, and the third one. So our radio, depending on what bit turns on, depends on whether it's Y3, 4, or 5, and you notice that defaults always to the first button. So if we were to switch on 2, you see 2, and then 3, and then 4, or back into 0 again. So that is our button itself. The next we have is our light over here. We can toggle this on, and you see Y6 now turns on and off. Looking at the program, our indicating button, there's MC6, and it actually turns on our output Y6, which we just saw, as well as MI6, which is actually button indicator. So again, we separate on a indicator button, or under the indicator push button, the fact that we can separate both the push button function and the light function separately. The next one is the TriState. In the TriState, we have our 3 outputs, Y7, 8, and 9. And you just notice that if we don't have the 7 and 8, MC7, MC8, which is the Modbus addressing, then we turn on the output. And if we do have it for 7, output Y8 goes on, MC8, Y9 turns on. So let's look at our simulator. And currently right now, Y7 is on. So if we turn button 2, then Y8, then Y9. Back to button 1 again. So again, the TriState, very easy to implement within the logic, and we have up to 16 buttons as we said before. The next one, if we look at our indicators, and there's my indicator. Again, these aren't push buttons now anymore. They're just indication of what's going on within my controller. And last time we used the indicator, we used MI. Right here, we used MI2 and 3, so this is X4 and X5, in order to energize these 2 outputs. So if we were to go back to our simulator and we hit X4, we see our indication light now come on. And X5, our graphic indicator light now comes on. So a very quick response on our communication back to the controller itself. Now lastly, if we look at our screen, we have MHR8, and looking at the program, if we go down here, MHR8 actually contains our value that we want to see. And what we've done here is we've taken the value WX0 and moved it into MHR or MHR8 register. So it should display up onto our screen as we change that. So let's look back at our simulation software, and this is WX0. So as I move the slider, you can see I'll see the analog value, or that value in the register now turning, and it now displays to the value that I want set on my display. Okay. So the C-More Micro HMI object buttons and indicators are very easy to implement. You can see that they're a very nice graphic on your screen, and you can see how we can quickly manipulate the information on there in order to get exactly what we want. Now, all the links and documentation can be found on our website at accautomation.ca, and you can get there by just going to the link below, and you will see it there that you can go back in, and there is a entire write-up on step-by-step procedures for all the indication and buttons that we have, just as demonstrated. Now, if you like this video and like to see more, there are 3 ways in which you can help us out. You can give us a thumbs up so other people can find this information. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at the end of the video. You can also go to accautomation.ca and subscribe to our website. When you do, notification will be given to you every time we publish new content to the site. You'll also get 2 free ebooks on numbering systems and robust data logging. And the third thing to do to help us out is to tell a friend or colleague about the site. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.